spirit was raw and open. And
I do have some of the most purest moments of clarity right after ecstasy.
There you go. So they took it to the next level, though. They used to meet in what they called the Hellfire Club. My understanding of the name was that was tongue-in-cheek. They weren't literally bragging like they were satanic or something. They were like, we know what the rest of the world would think about this. It's my understanding. And I guess that they met in like this specific cave kind of where he lived. They had set a tavern up inside it. He brewed his own beer. So they're drinking his brand of beer. You know, he's one of the founding fathers, so he's kind of a rock star. And they would go into this club and they would have ritualistic sex with these certain women on purpose. It was very intentional what they were doing. And so that's kind of it. And so, you know, when I hear them talk about the founding fathers, there's so many stories specifically about Franklin, but about all of them along those lines. I really have trouble swallowing the idea that they were Christians. I can't say that they were or weren't. I don't know what was in their heart. But when people are like, oh, this is a Christian nation founded on Christian principles because the founding fathers, I'm like, I actually don't think so. I don't know exactly what I think, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be a Christian and be in the Hellfire Club.
Right.
I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so.
There's definitely scripture that speaks against worshiping through sex. Between in the
You're gonna get that all perfect, and I'm gonna ask for a tissue.
confines of marriage, then yes, there's a great blessing in that sexual relationship. But doing it as an act of worship is
That's not it, huh? Like that's not doctrinal. It's not true to the faith.
right.
Interesting.
You guys can continue talking. It's already recording. All of them are already recording.
Everything's recording.
Yeah, I'm
That's
just
cool.
adjusting right now.
You got good frame even when I'm leaning forward and back because I'll tend to
Yeah.
go in between thoughts.
Yeah, I thought about that too. Like, see, I love this about the
Yeah.
mics because I'm going to move. Like, throughout an hour
Right,
conversation, there's no way I'm seeing her like this,
Right.
prim and proper, you know? One of the rules I heard about this mic specifically is you want to keep it about a fist away from your mouth.
Okay.
And I think that there's a little leniency there in terms of a little closer, a little further. But I think that's about right.
Because you want the pickup to be about the same throughout.
Yeah. And Aiden, when you get that aligned or set how you want, do me a favor and close that door. And then on the playback, let's see if we notice a difference in the sound quality between the door being open and shut.
Door open.
Distinctly closed.
Yeah. That way I could just know in the video.
Cool. So everything's recording. This is an official test.
Yep.
We are testing our cameras.
Do like that way. Yeah, should be good.
Cool.
So do you want to know what that's all about? Because I learned.
Tell me.
Learning. Everything's new. So my buddy Tommy wanted to do a show where we played Magic one-on-one, and there had to be enough personality in the room to carry the dead spots in the game. And that was the point. You're just putting something on in the background, you know, check out some cards, that kind of thing. And he does this clap. I was like, what was that all about? Why do you keep doing that?
For the recording?
For the recording.
Sound clap.
Yeah, sound clap. I didn't know what that was. So you already knew?
Yeah.
That's cool. There's a lot I don't know. Like everything in this room, I didn't know about. But see, there were a lot of things I could have done with some of the money I got, whether it be through that business deal that worked out good for me, my inheritance, whatever. So now I've amassed this certain amount of money. And just like they invest in portfolios, a certain amount of it had to be high risk because highest risk has the highest reward, right? This is me getting completely out of my comfort zone.
Okay.
I don't like cameras pointed at me. I hate my own voice. I got a face for radio. I buy all this equipment I don't know how to use or run or do anything. And I put all these paperweights in here and I go, Magician Aiden, abracadabra this shit, will you? And he abracadabraed for me.
Sweet.
And so,
Fantastic.
yeah, this whole studio idea in its purest form, what I'm driven by is I want to have these conversations. And I want to have them in a setting that is dedicated to the conversation. So there's not going to be interruptions. There's not going to be a phone call. There's not going to be crosstalk. I'm here because I want to know what you know. I want to hear what you have to say, and I want that to be focused.
Yeah.
And so this whole room was just building an environment that we feel we can have a dedicated convo in. And I think some amazing conversations are going to come out of that, right?
Yes.
So knowing that this episode goes nowhere, that this is just a test, and that Aiden is also in the room, because I imagine that will have a bearing on what some people say,
Sure.
right? Even the fact I'm in the room will have a bearing on what some people say. But in its simplest form, what do you want to talk about?
Well, first off, I'd like to start off being episode 0. I want to dedicate with prayer.
Let's do it. Let's
Join me,
absolutely
please.
do it.
Father, I thank you for your call on Brandon's life. I thank you for your plans and purposes in these podcasts and these shows, these conversations, that you have your spirit in here, your Holy Spirit, that your truth be spoken of and expanded upon and really dug into to get a better understanding of how we are supposed to operate in this life. I thank you for your plans and your purposes and your calling on our life, and that you use this studio for your glory. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you for that blessing, brother. That's awesome. That was a great way to start. It was a great way to start because I know that faith is going to be one of the biggest topics, and I believe very much in prayer. I don't need to explain to people that believe in prayer why, but I can also say to the crowd that's much more scientifically focused, I believe I could prove prayer works to you through science.
Absolutely.
I believe I could back it up with many a study. That aside, I've been praying that I be here almost as a one-way street, almost as simply a listening device. And I'm trying to really see my job as being the person that helps draw this very important sort of information out of people in its purest form, like an extract was what I was struggling to come to. I hope that I'm just here to prompt that information out of people, make them feel comfortable and listen, because literally I didn't invest all of this time building this and then the monetary expense for any other purpose than I want to draw that out of people and I want to absorb it.
Yes.
Like, this is my
Growth.
spiritual journey. This is for my growth. And honestly, it's not, I hope that it's not a selfish pursuit, because one of the things I want to do in putting it out to the world is maybe I'm asking questions other people they haven't asked anybody. Maybe they asked somebody and didn't get an answer. Maybe they ask and they didn't get the answer they wanted and they want to know if there's more information. And that goes on and on and on. I hope that what I'm doing is just creating a platform for seekers.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about everything that people are seeking. I mean, all of it. I want to talk about prepper topics. I want to talk about government. I very much want to talk about religions, faith, dogmas. So I think that that's always going to be this like monumental pillar to the show. And I hope so, because there's so much I could glean from that, you know?
Yeah. And I like the way you've put it. You want to extract. And so a large part of my life has been trying to show people how much I care so that they will care how much I know. And so
That's awesome. Will you say that one more time?
I want people to know how much I care so that they will care how much I know.
That's amazing. I love that.
We really can't reach people until we're at a place comfortable with them in the relationship that they're willing to sit down and listen and really glean like your experiences or what you come from. What do you know? How does this affect your life? How have you walked in that?
A little credibility.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you just can't come up to someone, hey, I'm so-and-so. What you need to do with your life is. I'm like, dude, get out of here.
Sure save time though, right?
Yeah. And so I have, we're all a book in ourselves, but some of us are really good at talking, some are really good at listening. I need someone to turn my pages to get through that information. I'm not someone who just gets a crowd and like, well, let me tell you all this, this, and this. I'm like, I need you to ask specific questions to get those specific results.
Sure.
I need you to dig through my index to get the right information you're looking for.
Sure.
And so direction in
Being prompted.
extracting those things, yeah.
Okay. So then along those lines, let me ask you, if this episode really was going out to the world,
It will someday,
someday, yeah. I'm sure we're gonna put up like episode 0, right? And we're gonna laugh about it, and like Aiden's got a camera on a Kleenex box because we're not ready yet.
And that's why I went
That's
and grabbed the
happening.
hat. You had the hat. I gotta.
Right. So if this platform really was to reach everybody, and you could take one message to people right now, what's something that you would like to convey to people?
God is real, and He loves us, and He has a plan for us, and that ultimate plan is forgiveness. We have been forgiven so that we can be in relationship with God.
Okay.
And God came in Himself in the form of man, Jesus, His Son, to take our sins upon Him so that we could be forgiven for our wrongs, which we know we've done, whether we suppress that or not, so that then we can come into right relationship with Him. That's what righteousness is. It's being in right standing with God. And in that right standing, we can come humbly and boldly to His throne of grace to receive help in the time of need. And that help is available to us. We just have to first know that it is available and we're able to receive it.
That's awesome. That's an awesome message. And let me ask you a really bold question. And I think that anybody hearing the question could anticipate the answer, but I think there's power in saying it. Would you die for that belief?
Absolutely.
And do you know that that is exactly what I think, what I feel in my heart makes you such a powerful conveyor of that message, carrier of that message, whether people agree with it or not. Inside you, there is a belief in your physical thinking mind and also in your spirit that you're willing to die for. I don't think most people can say that. And I'm not saying that you're better than other people, and I'm not saying that other people have to live that way, but I think everybody would have to admit there's a power in that. This human believes something in fibers of their being so deeply that trade their life for it. And I think that probably because you have been to that extreme corner of the soul in that regard, that your perspective is a little different than other people.
Sure. No
Probably more broad, probably wider, you know? Because certainly to reach that level of belief must have expanded your capability to believe things. You know,
Yeah.
like a bladder that gets filled over and over again, right? I think yours holds more water than other people.
I have a resilience to information that might not seem palatable. So many rabbit trails.
Sure.
Not sure where that one was going.
Okay. So let me ask, Aiden, you've heard us talking like this was an actual episode. Do you find our conversation so far interesting enough to listen to?
Yeah, I've been watching the entire time. I'm just kind of like going back and forth with whatnot. Basically, I kind of forgot that, like, because like in a sense I was kind of like just watching it as if it were a video. So I was
Yeah, it's
kinda, like just chilling, and I was like, you include me in the conversation. It's like, oh,
The TV's talking to me.
yeah. It's like what? So I kind of forgot to respond a little bit.
No, that's amazing. That's what I want this to feel like. Honestly, when I'm in this room, somehow it's surreal to me. And I can't reiterate enough that I have no desire to have my face out there, to be famous. I don't want to be in magazines. That's not what this is for me at all whatsoever. And if I have to do some of that as due diligence to promote the show, that's fine. But really, this was the true test of it in a literal sense, but figuratively, it was the true test of it for me. I didn't know if I was going to be comfortable in this room after all these months and building and money. I didn't know if I was going to sit here and enjoy the conversation. And I realized I forgot that I was just sitting here talking to you. And then I went, wait a minute, I better ask Aiden if this is boring because, oh yeah, this is a show. I love that. That means that this room's doing what it's supposed to do. So in terms of just my evaluation of what we've built, there's that. But now I'm also sensing that I don't think we're going to have to work that hard to create a show.
Sure.
Because I am blessed to know some really interesting people with a lot to say.
In the atmosphere is here,
Yeah.
and we're able to operate in that. And I remember the rabbit trail, which isn't just rabbit trail, it's the trail that we're to be led on, going back to dying. And in a sense, I do die every day to hold that belief. Like, I have to
Die to self.
die to myself, make up my mind that I am going to pursue that path and not just do something that's comfortable or do something that the rest of the world says, hey, this is what life's about. Yeah, dying to self.
You know, it's really interesting that you say it that way because I used to be a person that thought the world, I don't mean that in a biblical or Christian sense, not even a modern reference, but I used to think the world like was factual. Like we would watch movies and then we would see movie stars in interviews and all the things you see in like media and hype and whatnot. And I grew up on cable before the internet was on our TVs. And so you look at that and you think that factually that's what you do. You try to go out and be good looking enough and popular enough to get enough people to like you so that you can spin that into success. And then you take that success and you buy a big house and sports cars and go be famous. Like that was supposed to be kind of the ultimate goal in our society, unless your values lie somewhere else where those things don't entice you. But now you're going to do the equivalent of that, like in the political realm or in the producer's realm, right? Aiden could be the most famous producer in America in 10 years. And so, this is him paying dues and he's trying to do that. I used to think the world was factual that way, but when I look at it today, one of the things that I think is beautiful about the internet, as much damage as it can do too, with social media and porn and stuff like that, that's really beautiful about it is I think it gives us a more clear perspective of how diverse the world really is.
Sure.
When I take all those things I just said that I was going to go and do, where would I go do those? Because that exists in many places in the world. You go be a Bollywood star, right? Going back to that analogy, you could go to Hollywood, California. they're filming movies all over the world. Hollywood might be the epicenter. Okay, get away from that. You could be famous for music. You could be famous behind the scenes. Then I realized fame doesn't matter at all. And then I had to laugh again because I realized everybody's famous now. All you got to do is have a microphone and a couple of cameras. You're famous, right? So the fame doesn't exist. It doesn't matter. So now I don't see the world as clearly defined. So who would you reach in the world if you could? And I don't mean best case scenario where, of course, you'd say you'd reach everyone. You don't get to reach everyone because it just doesn't work that way, right? Who are you really speaking to if you can put a message out there?
First, I'm speaking to myself.
That's nice.
Second, just those who are hungry, those who are seeking, those who are willing to receive the information that I've had to struggle to gain, and really willing to chew on that and not just, whatever. But,
Sure.
I mean, there's pain and there's blood and there's tears in our years.
Yeah.
And there's worth to that.
There is worth to that. One of the topics that has been on my heart a lot lately in watching things like, and everybody forgive me if I mispronounce a name, but Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, kind of this whole thing began with him. I don't think this is cops versus civilians. I don't think this is black versus white. I looked at it and I realized that there's just a lot of hurting people. There's a lot of injustice. We are all fairly separated and yet completely together. But I just, as I look at this diversity in the world and I look at somebody like yourself that wants to reach everybody, or you'll work with these groups, or we haven't gotten on the topic yet, but what you do with your personal time. I know some of your other pursuits that you can discuss if you want. When I look at it, I just realized that kind of all of it doesn't exist, right? Because if you're a person of color in America, I don't like the term black, and I'm not saying that to be woke. I'm being literal. I've never seen a person that I would describe as literally black, and so the term kind of bothers me. And if anything, I'm like peach or tattooed. But if you were a person of color in America today, you're having a very different experience in life than like a white guy with a beard, probably. You know, right? Like a white graphic designer is having a very different experience in life than, say, a Hispanic gentleman that, you know, operates machine equipment for a living, something like that.
In the circumstantial, but if we get down to boiling what things we're going through in our life, what kind of struggles we're going through, they're in their sense raw and the same, man to man.
And that's exactly where I was driving this thing in terms of everything I said earlier about what I thought the world was and where I thought you had to go. Where we're sitting right now tonight, who you want to reach, to me, it is all 100% interconnected, so much so. And the only thing separating us from each other, in my opinion, is what's outside those doors, these social constructs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a skater, but I'm a surfer. Oh, but those guys get along, so that's cool. Oh, but he's a football player. I was quarterback and I skated pro-am. Like, what's wrong with that, right? But there seems to be these lines that we've drawn in the sand, and there seems to be a lot of social reinforcement of it. When you watch movies about high school, the nerds are the nice guys that weren't doing anything wrong, and the jocks are assholes. I didn't experience that in high school. To be frank, the jocks were too busy getting laid to worry about what anybody else was doing. Sex was a new thing. You were getting it. There was no meanness. On the other hand, in PE class, gym class, whatever they call it these days, I had to stick up for somebody once that was getting beat up.
Pardon.
Burp button? Do we have a burp button?
Soon to come, burp button. Pardon me.
button. Yeah, that'll work.
You know what, Aiden? This is so much nicer like this, bro. Really, like having you be a part of it is so much nicer. It's really good. Are you doing okay on time? Are we going long-winded here?
No, everything perfectly fine. The only issue that I've noticed is sometimes you back up, but you don't bring the mic with you.
Okay.
That's the only thing that I've noticed.
I was doing that too. I also didn't move my mic when I coughed, and I've also purposely been drinking.
Right where you have it right now is the perfect sound.
Splendid.
About a fist away. And I drank into the microphone on purpose to see if I need to avoid doing that.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying this to be a true test.
I don't think
I'll test my side.
too bad. Yeah, I've heard you slurping through the mic.
I slurped right now on purpose. If I had a fart on deck, we'd really be testing this motherfucker out. Just kidding.
You can get like lanyard necklaces.
Right. It's just like a pole as I stick on a collar. One fist away. Little ratchet. I think we're going to have a lot of fun having these conversations. I'm super looking forward to it. I plan on being in here like 2 days a week.
Yes.
And I might do series. I might keep it just kind of random, and I might let one thing lead to another. Like we might, have to end this conversation earlier than we would normally. because this is just a test, and we want to continue the conversation, but we feel like it was so
Start a
powerful.
real episode.
New episode,
Yeah,
right? We're
right.
just going to keep it going. And so, I'll take everybody's feedback on that, especially yours, Aiden. Like, I just want to keep it open, easy breezy. To me, I want the show to be something you can put on in the background, and it's like listening to a stand-up comic. Every once in a while, there's that one-liner from the other room, and you're like, aha, that's pretty funny. I want you to be able to zoom in, meaning pay attention and actually derive something from it, and it's interesting, but also have it in the background. It's not like offensive, Let me ask you something about that gentleman that was just here, because it's a good topic. So first of all, I like the guy, and I was really stoked that he called me up. I like people with passion.
Yeah, his zeal was good.
Ton of
Good
passion,
fire.
right? It's interesting though, because my parents, who are super devout Christians, go to a church, and they have yelling preachers there, and I mean yelling.
Yeah.
I had to follow my dad out of a church one time because the guy was just screaming at the crowd. It was off-putting, and I think we all took it as long as we could. My dad was the first to just kind of call it, and he wasn't trying to be rude. He just slipped out the door, but he wasn't getting a message anymore.
Right.
Like, now he's just so off-put, he can't absorb a message, and I followed him and we talked about it. I kind of felt like that was working against our friend that came over here, but you have to give him credit for the passion.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, what did you think about what he was saying and how he conveyed the message? I'm just curious what someone else would say.
I can tell that he's been deep in his studies. He's very hungry for the truth. And I do applaud his zeal. But there is a certain kind of cruise control, or certain times we've got to pump the brakes a little bit for people to catch up, to be able to chew on what we're spitting out.
Sure. That's a great way to put that. Pump the brakes once in a while, let everybody else catch up, right? And chew on what you're shoving down their throat. And I shouldn't put it that way. He wasn't shoving anything down my throat. But, when people get loud and they're forceful in a conversation, it's not too off-putting to me. I'm just sort of absorbing their passion and going, okay, this person's fervent. They feel this, and I'm into that. But
and be aware that they're chewing on it, and then if they're bringing more questions, see what they have to bring out. See how you can help chew them.
Sure.
Yeah, chew them up.
Aiden, just because I saw you get up, I was kind of hoping we would hit the 29-minute mark on the cameras to find out what they're going to do.
Yeah, I kept the 9. It has 2 minutes left.
So this is actually probably a good time. Should we see what happens if we pause it and hit record again?
Yeah. If anything, it's just going to continue. It's just going to reset to that 30-minute timer.
Just hit the main button.
3, 2, 1, and then just press the red button. Or no, the red button over there.
And we're back. Action. So we've covered quite a bit of faith tonight, literally just in our night.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we will be doing on the show itself, in the background, I would be putting together a list of what I consider intelligent, intriguing questions that this person might discuss with me, prompts, and I'm going to send it to them about a week ahead of time. Good. So in case they get nervous or they just want to be well-spoken, they have a chance to prepare. Sure. There's no so what about this, left hook kind of stuff. Because that's not the point of the show. I want people to have a voice and be heard and be able to get a message out, whatever that is. So we didn't have that because this is episode 0 and we're just sitting here talking. So is it off limits to talk about what you do to help folks in regards to the personal security, or does that blow your cover, so to speak?
In a sense it does, but no, I don't think it's off limits.
Maybe we just talk about the broad topic.
Sure.
Broad topic. So you have a real heart for helping women specifically.
And children.
And children that are being sex trafficked.
Yes.
And that's okay to talk about in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my heart is broken for the lost and the pure and the innocent and the weak and helpless.
Sure.
The stories of rape victims and the cries of children keep me up at night and put me in the gym. And
I like that.
Being a veteran and being called by the Lord, I see that He brought me out of man's army into His army and is calling me to use my tactical skills for His purposes.
Right. Because another topic that would be worth discussing in an official episode, but I'm still just talking to you as a friend. I mean, you're like a government-sanctioned, vouched-for official real-life badass, right?
I can neither confirm or deny without the Secretary's approval.
And I've known you long enough to know you're not walking around strutting and peacocking and acting like you are. But, I mean, you got a couple $1 million in training you mentioned. Correct. One time. Like, you've had the real deal training, right?
Yeah.
2 tours overseas. Is that right?
That's right.
So you're not the guy they want to pick a fight with ever.
Unless they want it to end.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not saying that
and not in the pride of myself.
Sure. Yeah. I know you're not the guy to bar fight. I don't mean anything like that. But, I used to make jokes all the time because I've been around the fight industry a lot in my youth, in my 20s, around like Tito Ortiz gym down there in Huntington Beach and like Jimmy Smith and those fighters. And I would look at these guys that did tens of hours of training a week. I mean, these were some seriously well-trained individuals. And you look at them and they just look like your average dude in a t-shirt. And I would always giggle. I'm like, some dumb asshole's going to go pick a fight with that guy in the bar and pick his teeth up off the ground. And these were passive people. Through all that training, they had the utmost confidence that they could absolutely destroy you in a fight. They have nothing to prove. They're not going to be the ones to pick the fight. Right. But you're going to be a jerk or you're going to be drunk and you're going to push it. And the guy's going to go, well, get a box for your teeth because here they come. And so anyways, I've always found that stuff to be impressive, probably mostly because we all grew up watching the cool action movies. And it's really cool that you guys can do a lot of that stuff in real life. But to ground the conversation, you're trying to do it in a really beautiful setting where you don't want to kick anybody's butt. You just want to use the skills you have up here as well to help define a threat and eliminate a threat to women and children specifically in this case. I don't want you to give away trade secrets, but tell me a little about it.
Okay. I think one of my best assets is not appearing skilled in those areas. I value people underestimating me because then that allows me to blow their expectations.
They don't see you coming.
Yeah. It's just another guy. Some people refer to it as the gray man. You see, I wear a lot of gray, a lot of neutral colors. I'm very good at blending in, and that's kind of been one of my struggles also, is being a man of faith, trying to be outspoken and stand boldly, but also still, because I have so much training in the shadow world that I know how to operate in that, and I know how to blend and just to be a light in this world. It's such a hard balance between being a light and
a wallflower. How do you blend and shine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a good problem to have in the sense that it shows where your heart's at. Just the fact you want to help people at all, that's kind of a big deal. Most people don't go through their day wanting to help anybody, right? I mean, and I'm not faulting folks that don't. Maybe you're a single mom and you have several kids, or a single dad and you got things to do and everybody has jobs.
Plates
and I
full.
understand.
Yeah.
Plates are full, exactly. But to not only have a heart for it, but then to actually act on it is really amazing.
And going back to the hurting people, like I was bullied in my teens and stuff, and in school and stuff, but I always had that kind, tender heart. And so going in, that's part of the reason maybe I joined the military. I needed to become my own man. I didn't have a father growing up, so that also helped me rely on God as my father. But I needed to go through those hard times to strengthen myself. And so in my 20s, when I was in the military, I was so used to, hurting people hurt people. And so I was so used to being hurt by hurting people that I didn't allow people to touch me. Like, if you touch me, I'm placing my hands on you and you're going to feel pain. And you're going to learn, don't touch me unless I allow you permission. And then just after I got out of the military, the Lord called me, and I have such a heart for hurting people. I don't want to hurt people. I want to help people. But I also want to hurt people that hurt people.
I hear you. I hear you in that regard. You want to go that extra mile and protect people that can't protect themselves, and I'm right there with you on that one.
And that's what this patch is all about. Keep the peace, defend the flock.
Yeah, I really do think that there is a vast distinction between people that just want to hurt people, and those people exist. I don't know what they're defined as. Are they sociopaths, psychopaths, assholes? I don't know what it is. But those people certainly exist. And then there's guys like you that I see very clearly don't want to hurt anyone until you're one of these guys, and then I double want to hurt you. And I don't know what that is. And I think that it just means you have a nurturing nature, and that's in your spirit, not in your physical body, in my opinion, right? I don't even think you have to be Christian or of a faith to believe that. And so many people these days don't believe in having a soul. I'm really glad for the guys like you, just because I happen to share the belief that we have one, of course, that you're out there trying to protect people's. I used to say people have heard me say a lot, actually, that all people are hurting people, hurting internally. I really like what you just said about hurting people that go out and hurt people. One of the things that I've heard recently, though, that I found really fascinating was that we've all heard the expression, pain is weakness leaving the body.
Mm-hmm.
I heard recently that growth only comes through trials, but specifically the way it was phrased was that there's no growth in comfort. Interesting. I was like, really? And then I thought about it. Man, when I'm on my couch with a good buzz and the perfect show on TV and I'm in my pajamas, I'm not growing.
Yeah,
I'm not building muscle. I'm not arriving at epiphanies. None of that stuff. So you got to go out and you got to hurt to grow. And a lot of people aren't even interested in growing, so it's a non-issue. Sure. Let me ask you, just since we're doing sort of an abbreviated episode here, have you had success at what you do, and can you talk about any of it?
I've made a few reports. I have not seen fruit come out of those reports because I'm not working hand in hand with those local law enforcements that I've placed reports to.
Sure.
And they don't have accountability to me. So
sure.
I hope that some of the work I've done has fruit in it, and I know that it will to come. But as of right now, I can't have any success stories to share.
It's totally possible, though, that you planted a seed and it went out into the world, and that information you gave that officer that he wasn't able to do anything about today, he went and did something about Thursday. And like you said, they're not accountable to you, so you just don't know about it. Right. You could have planted a seed with some of these people you've contacted, and I won't go into details, but from the little you told me, might have planted a seed in them and they made a change in their own life.
Yeah.
You know? Aiden, how are you doing on time? Should we keep talking? Because I can talk to him when you're at home playing video games if we're boring you. You tell me what's good for you, man.
No, I'm just fine. I'm just chilling. I'm just making sure that the times are running fine, and then just like if the cameras go out of place a little bit, which they've been good. The only issue we've had is just when we press the button because it kind of either went a little bit downwards or whatnot.
Sure. I'll get those dialed in and tightened up. You know, we'll get the power cords attached to them. Like I said, as long as I can film an episode, even if it's not A+ quality, but we got it done. My buddy Alex that's flying out here is just one of my best friends in the whole world, but he's an interesting guy. He's really turned off to faith. I can't say right now because I imagine after the trauma he's been through, it's probably going to last the rest of his life, and I can't comment for him, but I don't see him going back to it. He was in what he and I both call the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't mean to badmouth a religion, a sect, whatever they consider it. I consider all religions a cult just by definition. It's not meant to be insulting. Sure. Jehovah's Witnesses certainly seem to have certain dogmas that I don't see in other denominations, but this is a guy that went through that and started his life over at like 27. And now in his early 40s, he's like technically retired if he wants to be. He's a self-made millionaire. He has a success story, but because of a lot of trauma, one of the things we're going to talk about, he went and did MDA therapy and MDMA therapy with a shaman. But I hate that in our society, shaman's almost like a dirty word. Sure. But he went and I think the guy's from the Netherlands, and he worked with this dude somewhere that it was legal for them to do this. And this is a person that is like board certified, state certified as a licensed psychiatrist. So this is a legit person that then went what I consider the extra steps to become a shaman. So this isn't like I'm working out of my van, I'm a shaman. This is no, I can do everything you can do, medical professionals. And then I have tapered that down to shamanistic beliefs. He went through this illegal therapy and it did wonders for him.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great episode. But you know, you were talking about trauma. What's some of what you've heard these people go through besides the fact that they're being pimped out, you know, for sex for money against their will? I can picture all the trauma with that. I don't want to. It turns my stomach. But I'm saying, have you encountered some of these people? How did you hear about? How did you get started? What called you to that?
I'd say probably 2012. I was up late night watching like KTV, I believe it was called. It's late night Christian music videos, and there was a music video on there was just statistics of people being trafficked, like all the human trafficking statistics. Like it's at the time it was like the second largest criminal industry in the world.
Sure.
Between guns and drug sales. and just, the average person is kidnapped and sold into like slavery around 12 years old. And just with my psychology background, a little bit, I did some minor in psychology. Just trauma creates scars, whether that's physical or emotional. And when there's so much mental, emotional trauma, it fractures our psyche. And there's cracks in our system, and there's wounds, and some of those wounds just get put in closet for so long, and they come out in such unexpected areas. So just
protecting people from that, like what a noble cause, right? I've had in the past, like I think most people have, many people have at very least, what's been defined to me as clinical trauma, and I won't go into it. It's not about me, but so I sort of have a grasp of it from that side, and certainly nobody came to my rescue with it in a physical sense, like in the tangible world, but thinking about what you do, and you hear this expression a lot, if I just reach one person kind of thing, but imagine being that one person where Sateo prevents all that from happening. They were on the cusp of it. They were around it, or they were already in it. They know like what was coming. They're going to feel that. Boy, you got a hug coming from somebody. And hopefully more than one, right? Like this is something you can really go out and do. Do you have a chance to be involved that way through normal legal channels? Do you have like a police officer you work with? Do you anything you can talk about?
I'm pursuing a few certain certifications that would allow me to work hand in hand with law enforcement.
Super cool.
So they can just not say that, oh, you're just some guy maybe trying to help, maybe skis ball, maybe we don't know, but I'm certified. I've been through my background checks. I've been through the training. I know the awareness of things to look for, the indicators. And then there's also an organization out in Utah called OUR that I'm very fond of, and the work they do, Operation Underground Railroad.
That's cool.
And it's all about abolitionists, setting people from slavery.
You know what's insane to me, man, is that slavery just absolutely 100% exists today.
There's more slaves today than there's ever been.
Sure.
And we're just so blind to it.
It's unbelievable to me that like we act like we're such evolved beings, right? Like right now sitting here, 40-year-old white male in America, I don't have a racist bone in my body that I'm aware of, and I go, what do you mean in the 50s dark-colored folks couldn't sit in a restaurant with me? Like that sounds insane to me, right? That sounds insane. That wasn't 300 years ago. That wasn't 1,000 years ago. That's not an archaeological dig.
Right.
That's like my grandparents. My dad, 72 years old today, born in 1948. He went to school during segregation. What are you talking about? What's segregation? I don't understand. I grew up in Southern California.
Like what's not color TV?
Yeah, it's insane, right? So we act like we're these like modern, woke, evolved human beings. Dude, like 70 years ago, we couldn't sit in restaurants together. So that's insane. And I think that it's been overcompensated for really hard. I always talk about the pendulum swing. Like there was racism. So, instead of just leveling it out right in the middle and equality, we got to let the pendulum swing the other way. And we got all this insanity going on. And it's going to go extremes until it levels out. And I'm not commenting on anything specific. Antifa's in the news every day. I don't even know what Antifa is by definition. And what's interesting is I thought I knew what Black Lives Matter is. I would ask people about it.
New episode.
That's a whole nother episode because I've gotten such a diverse response cluster back from, this group versus this group. These different people give me their opinions. I don't really understand the state of America, but I know it's not what we think it is. Right. Any of us. And I don't know who knows the right answer. There's analysts somewhere, or there's a team that backs politicians, and they surely know. They have like a true bird's eye view scope of America. I have no idea what it is anymore. I thought I knew. And I just don't have that perspective. Aiden, how many minutes are we at on the video total?
13. Oh, on total? Probably 40 minutes.
Okay.
40, 50.
Should we just talk it out for 20 minutes and have a secret episode 0, sitting around? Like, should we do another 20 minutes, or do you want to call it?
It's just up to you guys, whatever time.
Oh, I can talk to this guy for 20 minutes, no problem. Let's go ahead and film, like when you edit down from how much equals 1 hour. How much video do you need to trim it to about an hour? It doesn't have to be precise, but
Well, with podcasts like this or whatnot, it's just however long you talk, and then if there's sections you don't want in it, like for example, if you don't want this scene like where we're talking right now, I could just cut that out and then make it like as if it never happened or whatnot. Because
So
that's
like-
what I did with Tebow.
I get down to like half that. I'm like, man, I gotta pee so bad.
Yeah,
Pause
it's-
here.
That's cool.
That's the only thing that probably give it away or whatnot.
Yeah.
But if anything, I could just not show this one for a while. That way, it looks like you've just been sipping it for
Right.
some time.
It cuts to him in a red bandana with a half-empty water jug.
It's
We're
like
like,
a different day. Just
there's a window behind me.
Where'd you get that sleeve done in the next half hour?
That's good stuff right there. Yeah, let's just go ahead and finish out just a little over an hour so that if we ever want to release an episode 0 so people can laugh about us trying to get it going, this might be a thing in 3 years, you know? Let's go ahead and do it. I'm really pumped to have met Aiden, by the way. I don't think, and you should hear this, I don't think Aiden knows how integral to this process he really is.
Sure.
Not just in terms of, I don't know what I'm doing behind that computer, but check it out. I spent a total of about between $6,000 and $8,000, depending on how you look at it, to get this going. I have spent hours and hours and hours. I had to order this table out of New York. I've built every piece of furniture in here. I hauled this desk through 2 moves. I've had to learn more about audio video than I ever thought that I would need to. So let's just say tens of hours. I put 100 hours into this thing, and I did it all based on my good friend Tebow goes, I got a producer. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a producer. I met Aiden one time, and I just like knew he could do this. I mean, he could have just left town, found a full-time girlfriend, and moved out. Now he's in Texas. I got no show, but I just had this good feeling, and I never hesitated. I met him one time, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Great
And it's
investment.
It's
Great
crazy.
investment.
So
Thank you,
pivotal
Aiden.
on this new.
Thank you for your support and your willingness to be part of this.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, basically, I was just making meme videos, and then Tebow was like, "Hey, doing a podcast." And I was like, or not podcast. Whenever he was doing those videos when he was going to the Magic Fest before the COVID happened, he had like this whole plan out about doing it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, COVID." And now it's just like unboxing Yu-Gi-Oh packs or whatnot.
Yeah, my buddy quits his full-time corporate job to go officially be a professional Magic player, and that did happen. And 5 minutes after he quit his job, COVID hit. Like a day or something, a week. I mean, something unrealistic. He's pulled it off, though. As a matter of fact, he got monetized and started making more money after COVID. And COVID's still going on in a lot of places.
Playing the
Still locked in.
tournaments.
Yeah, doing stuff online at home, box opening, follower online kind of thing. So he's doing good with it. But it's crazy how this whole thing came together.
Following his passion.
And, you know, for what it's worth, as being a producer, Aiden, I do hope that you get a career out of this. Not just this show, but, you know, this leads to the next thing and that leapfrogs to the next. And you're doing whatever you want with all this audio, video, and editing. But I'm telling you right now, if I do my job, you're going to consider it a blessing in your life. The conversations that go across this table might just be some of the best darn conversations just ever that you're going to hear in your lifetime.
Yeah, conversations always are a great thing or whatnot, because, I mean, regardless if you say it or not, you always end up learning something.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when I first fell in love with watching podcasts, and I hope that that's why there's such a phenomenon right now, is that this format is so different than, you know, like the talking heads on the news that always talk the same way, and you're like, why are you talking like this? Humans don't talk this way. Yeah. We're going to go to you, Johnny. Who talks like that? How the fuck are you supposed to be our only path to the truth? And you're like, today's weather's going to be... I can't get behind it. But anyways, this format's so different. I feel like you really get information. That's why I fell in love with it.
So, question, like, what kind of constraints or barriers you're going to put on this? Like, you just kind of drop the F-bomb. Like, are you going to have certain kind of ratings for your shows? Just raw, real, in the moment?
I don't think there's such a thing as letting a dog off a leash to run and play in a yard, but he's still on a rope. You know what I mean? Yeah. I need people to be 100% comfortable and as much themselves as they're comfortable being, you know, under lights and on cameras. I don't feel like I'm under like staged lights. It'll feel a little more like that or a little less like that when we go China balls. I don't even notice these cameras are here, and I'm incredibly nervous about cameras. In fact, the last 2 photo shoots I had for my company, I didn't even want to be in them. I don't want my face in a magazine. Right. And I go to do it, and I remember my head shaking. I couldn't stop my head shaking. I'm like, why am I so nervous? Camera pointed at me.
Yeah.
I don't feel that in here.
Yeah.
No restraints. I want people to just say what they want to say.
Cool.
You know? I know I fumble my words sometimes when I'm in politer company and I'm trying to catch an F-bomb or something, and I just suddenly start stumbling with what I was trying to say. Curse words is actually, believe it or not, going to be like a half an episode sometime. Because it floors me that one, I've always used this analogy. If I say the word caterpillar, You're like, so what? If I say cunt, you're like, holy shit, what did that guy just say? You could curse in response to cunt, and your curse doesn't even count.
Right.
I don't even know why that's such a dirty word, but here's what floored me. I went, it's 4 letters. It's a word. How come when I say baloney, no one's gasping, did he say baloney? Right? And then you go like,
Safeties and triggers.
wet ass pussy. And people are just like, did he say that out loud? So I don't really understand it. I did used to think that it was strictly social programming and that we've all just assigned these words through the teachings of our elders. Your parents were like, don't say that. And so we're like, ooh, that's bad. There's actually a study out there I watched a whole documentary on. Curse words have power.
Yes.
Whether they started out as programming doesn't change the fact that in your brain, it hits triggers when you hear them. So now that's something worth watching, because I used to think like, look, if you're hearing me talk and I go fuck this and fuck that and the word fuck offends you, eat your sandwich somewhere else. I don't know. It's free country. That's actually not a fair perspective. I don't want to go through life offending anybody. I don't see curse words as curse words. I don't know how to say that in simpler terms. I understand that parts of the world do. It's also different in different parts of the world. Like, you ever watch English television? Even Guy Ritchie movies.
Interesting that you mentioned English television, because as you're speaking of curse words, the movie London is brought to mind.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Many years ago.
Tell me about it.
And in the movie, they talk about a study done where scientists placed 2 jars of rice in 2 separate rooms. And in one jar of rice, they speak such kind words. Oh, you're such healthy rice. You're beautiful rice. You're such thriving, alive rice.
I love you, rice.
I love you, rice.
Yeah.
The other room, only curse words, only negative energy at this. You nasty, bad rice. You're so ugly. You're so rotten. You're such terrible rice. After maybe a week, a month, you can see that good rice is still good rice, still white, healthy, edible. The cursed rice is becoming moldy, black, decaying. And that's just another scientific explanation that our words do have power and that we are transmitters of certain energies and frequencies that do have effect on other things.
I completely agree with that. If this was an official episode we were prepared for, I would let you know that study was done because rice is inexpensive, accessible. You don't need a special camera and microscope. But the first version of that was done by cursing at water, flash freezing it with liquid nitrogen, I believe, or gaseous nitrogen. I don't know which, but they freeze it and then they take a picture with a camera. And when I'm sitting here yelling like, racist stuff and fuck you and whatever at this water, and they snapshot it, the ice crystals aren't beautiful and symmetrical. They're like kind of deformed. They're just not as pretty, and it's distinct. And then when they would sit there and they would say, thank you, water. Thank you for hydrating my body. I love you. Everything's made of you. You're wonderful. And they would flash freeze it and take pictures of the ice crystals, which we'd be seeing on the monitor if we were prepared for it. Man, they're so beautiful. And you really see that gorgeous, elegant design of the universe, this perfect crystal, right?
And so if we were speaking on that episode, I would mention that, as Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And for our viewers and listeners, if you want to see more on that, just look up videos of different sounds being resonated through water and the different shapes it takes.
Absolutely. I've seen that too. I've even seen them do it, cornstarch and water and set it on a speaker and play different vibrations. See, humans have a vibrational frequency in it. I'm not saying this is correct, but I believe I've heard that we have the same vibrational frequency as the Earth, that toroidal field on the Earth is what causes our body to have ours. We're literally that connected to the planet. That's a whole episode, right? Yeah. But one of the things that I always tell people is that I personally believe that science and spirituality are 100% connected, and everybody would know it and believe it today if it wasn't for the history of the church being so anti-scientist, right? If the Catholic Church specifically, I'm not likening it to churches today, weren't like, putting Galileo on home arrest kind of thing and just constantly at battle with science because they didn't have the faith to believe that God would keep humans enthralled without without just the church not being challenged by science. Right. Anyways, here's my point is that everybody's heard of the double slit experiment these days where we put slits, we fired electrons through them individually, and it shows that until observed, they both operate as a wave and a particle. Right? I actually think that our words are the same way, and I'm not trying to connect the two directly. I'm saying that I think that if I yelled at you, Sateo, I haven't seen you in a month. I love you, dude. Or I yelled at you, you're a fucking horrible person. I hate you. It could be audibly the same tone, but the intention behind it is different. And I truly believe that what is coming out of our mouth is both love and hate until its intention lands on your ears, hits you in the face. It doesn't matter the decibel. It matters the intention behind it. So it's not that I'm being yelled at. It's that somebody yelled love or yelled, you're a fucking piece of shit. And I think that has a huge effect on us. And if it affects those crystals in the water, right, when they're flash frozen into crystals, how could it not be affecting the water in my body? And what's growing on that rice is bacteria. Well, my body's like a high percentage bacteria. Right. So if somebody's yelling at a child every day, how does that not affect their literal essence? Oh, yes. Of course it does. We all know it does. So how come we don't explain it that way? And that leads me to something I want to discuss on the show quite a bit when we get to it is why don't we study things like that? Why?
And I will agree and disagree about the tone. Like, because I could say, you're a freaking awesome dude. Or I could say, you're such an ass clown.
Right.
But there's still that energy behind it. Even though my words might not line up with my motive or my heart, you can still feel it.
It was the intention.
Right.
You know, I'm so glad we're doing all this, and I'm going to keep saying that because I keep being grateful. We need to get you a microphone, bro.
I was thinking that too.
Oh, yeah, true. Well, if anything, does it have to be the same quality? I was just going to say I could just wear like a gamer headset or something like that.
Yeah, that might work
the same way.
We could try it. Obviously, I would want the sound quality to match, but you have good things to say, dude. You should have a microphone.
Yeah, I was going to say at the moment for this section, I'll just use since this is really close to me, I'll just use that audio.
Okay. Yeah, try it and let's see how it works.
If I use this would sound like a. Did you play Xbox 360 back then or what?
Yeah, I played back then.
Modern Warfare 2 is like, oh, dude, you freaking trash, bro. You got, it would sound like that. It would be really bad.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then once he goes and edits and reviews, he can see what kind of pickup he's getting with the setup we have now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is going to be a really genuine test, and boy, I'm going to pull this off by the skin of my teeth because I'll be heartbroken if I don't have like a refined episode when my buddy Alex gets here. So this is going to be really cool. And actually, I'll probably show this test episode to the first couple of guests so they kind of know what they're in for environment-wise and just the feeling to the conversation. So this is pretty good. But yeah, I think we got to get you a mic, bro. Yeah, no, Aiden.
Did it just do that? Or
like 3 minutes ago.
3 minutes ago? Oh, that'll buff out.
Yeah, totally fine.
Show a different angle. But,
Aiden discovered there was a tax.
Yeah, it's a...
Tax?
Yeah, because there's a difference between cameras and video cameras.
Camcorders.
Video cameras have higher tax rates on them. So
like taxes and you're getting charged to pay tax?
Yeah, so if anything records past, like even my phone too, if anything records past over 30 minutes, it is considered a video camera, and therefore there's a huge difference. There's higher taxes or whatnot. That's the reason why those big like Sony cameras or Panasonic are like $2,000 or whatnot. What my camera does, this one here, it records in 30 minutes. So like once 30 minutes hit, it'll stop and then it'll start again automatically. So basically it'll continue.
Program loopholes.
Yeah. So that's a loophole for it. Some cameras I think might do that, but it's kind of like those weapons that are technically not automatic, but kind of like automatic.
Yeah, like a Hellfire trigger.
Mm-hmm.
So it stops
like
it and restarts.
One's legal, one's not. Yeah. Or
that's funny.
One has higher taxes, one doesn't.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. If you wanted a sub $1,000 camera, which is what we got because we needed 2, possibly 3 of them, it's like, let's test this. You have to press a button every 30 minutes. And see, that's what the fuck is wrong with the world. That's what bothers me, right? Some guy somewhere decided you have to pay more for a camcorder and they make this law to make more money. And so now I have to press a button every 30 minutes. What's wrong with the world? Just stop that. It's the same little plastic box. It's the same lens. But because I hit a button every 30 minutes, that changes what I pay for it. Get fucked. This planet's broken, dude. It bothers me so bad.
We do live in the fallen world.
We so do. In fact, while we're on the tangent, this killed me today. I hung my signs and I went over to City Hall because I heard, I didn't even know this, that I would have got a fine in the mail if you don't go pay City Hall for hanging a sign. So to be clear,
hanging a sign where, like in public or
on my building. Okay, so I'm renting a building space from a landlord. I'm half the building, and I went to him and said, can I put my sign up in your sign posts that are mounted in the ground? that has a clear and distinct area for a 4-foot by 8-foot sign. I said, can I hang my signs? He goes, yeah, no problem. I go to the city and they're like, oh yeah, you need to measure your frontage. We need square footage. We need to know how tall the sign is, how wide it is, how far from the ground it is, this and that. And then we're going to tell you how much you owe us. And then you can hang it. And I go, you see that truck over there? Because City Hall's across the street from my building. I go, they're hanging my sign right now. So are you just going to send me a fine? Like, I don't understand. So I pay taxes, but I have to pay you extra money to put words up on my building.
If you want to get a message out to the public, you got to pay the piper.
Right. And they were like, well, we provide a safe environment where in this city you can hang a sign and nobody will vandalize it or steal it. That's what my fucking taxes are for. Well, the only reason you need $50 for this administrative fee is because you created a form that somebody has to enter in a computer and talk to me about it. And so now you have to pay wages and so now I have to pay $50. Why don't you just fuck off and not have a form? I'm going to put a sign on a building. Leave me alone. I don't get it. If it doesn't say anything offensive, if you don't drive by and go, oh my God, that sign says giant cocks, we better stop and tell him to take that down. Why can't you just drive by and go, oh, that's neat, they hung a sign. Why'd you need my $50? I don't understand it, and that's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with America specifically. I watched a podcast by a financial advisor and analyst that said that you only make 45% of your money, and I thought he was full of shit at first, but think about it. Income tax. Then you pay tax on everything you buy at a store, 7%, 8%, whatever it is. Then you got to pay to register your car. Then you have to blah, blah, blah down the line until you actually don't really make any money. It's a trip, right? You pay taxes on the food you eat. You pay taxes on the clothes you buy. Wait, why didn't my income tax cover that? Why isn't there just one flat tax? Did you know you pay an extra 1% to the Pruitts here at Lake Ozark if you shop at Target or anywhere in that center? It says right on your receipt. It's like Pruitt tax.
I just touches another episode, which is we live in a system. I'm not even gonna get into it right now.
It is a whole episode, and we should probably say our goodbyes after this. I think we have enough footage, but let me say this. So many people don't understand, and they should. Everyone should know where the construct of our modern society came from. And it's little things like the public school system. And I'll research this before I say it as fact, but I'm pretty sure that was started by Henry Ford, where the government was already kind of helping sponsor, get some schools officially sanctioned so that kids could have education in America. But I'm pretty sure that Henry Ford spent more on it than anybody else. And that's because he basically wanted to weed out who was qualified to work in his factories or not. Mm-hmm. He was one of the largest businessmen in the planet at the time. He had lots of factories, and that's why we have school bells. The school bells mirrored his factory bells so that people were trained when they came out of school to go work in his factory. So our public school system did not start out through our government. Just like today it's gone full circle, and now our prisons are privatized because the corporations want to make money.
Money system, yeah.
Everything is set up for somebody to be queen bee, for all the rest of us to be worker bees, and literally every minute of your day is just going to jam it in your ass so they get the most out of you they can. And if you look at it, taxes are probably the biggest one.
Taxes in the 9 to 5. It's to keep us in that rat race of the system so that we're fighting and striving for the dream and not really seeing what life's really about.
That's fair. And it does go both ways, and that's what we would cover in that episode. This is all an illusion, and you have illusion of choice. But then there is also the fact that we do live in a very blessed country, and we're blessed to be here. Like this, this is an amazing place because you do have rights. There is upward mobility possible.
Sure.
You can graduate up to a different level. You could start out poor and work hard enough to become a billionaire in America, and you can't say that about most of the globe. So we're certainly blessed to be here. That doesn't mean it couldn't be more fair.
Sure.
Because think about how many more people would really contribute to the world. I know zeitgeist is a buzzword, but would really contribute to everyone around them if they weren't kicking their own ass to pay rent. If you just stopped applying so much pressure to the people, I think they would be really impressed with how many of us thrive and contribute and make the world a more beautiful place. I really believe that. I do have that faith in humanity, that people would step up to the causes and they would get shit done. And I don't think that we would have all these brawls in the street and everybody hating each other if there weren't so many suppressed classes, you know?
Yep.
So this was a really fun test episode. We got one rant in, a couple of F-bombs. 3, I'm pretty sure 3. This felt really good. I really appreciate the fact that you opened it up in prayer. What do you say we close episode 0 with some prayer?
Awesome.
Hit me, bro.
Thanks so much for the invite. Thank you, Father, for, again, your love. Thank you for your truth. Thank you for the work you'll be doing through this podcast and the people you'll be reaching for your glory. Let your truth shine. Let your light shine. Come, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you very much sincerely for being the guest on episode 0. This makes me feel so good that we've done this, and I have no idea how we end up ending our show. I guess we'll know after we get the first edit done. We look at an hour show, intro, outro, stuff like that.
Do like a fadeaway or something like that. I don't know. Like you guys look at the middle camera or whatnot and be like, "Thank you for watching."
I'm gonna have a special microphone that I just hold up and drop, just click the lights out, and just leave. That's how we end the show. Taylor's like,
Bye, camera.
We buy a new camera and
Yeah.
every episode, right? I'm gonna get the leader of like the Crips in here, and it's just like we just buy new equipment when he leaves. Just kidding. I'm not insinuating the Crips are thieves. I don't know that. So
Thanks so much for your invite. I look forward to the next episode. I'm be able to be blessed to join you on.
thanks for being here, brother. Love you, man.